you're listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Tuesday, March 17th, 2015, and this is The Connection on LiveTalk. I'm Tatenda Gumbo.
And I'm Tungamili Nkomo.
Tonight, we are discussing the closure of the University of Zimbabwe following student demonstrations and the state of universities in Zimbabwe.
Let's get connected on Twitter and Facebook using the hashtag The Connection. Our Facebook page is VOA Studio 7 and our Twitter handle is @Studio7VOA. We can also get things going on WhatsApp, and the number is 001-202-465-0318.
And for those who want to speak on air, you can give us a call on 001-202-619-2077. Again, that number is 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back.
We are also streaming live on the internet at voazimbabwe.com, voashona.com, and voandebele.com.
Again, this is your Youth Forum, The Connection, coming live to you from Washington, D.C., Voice of America.
The University of Zimbabwe temporarily closed today after students demonstrated with the university authorities issuing a statement to the effect that the university will remain closed until issues that require immediate attention are addressed. University students, though, say besides the downing of tools by academic and non-academic staff, university conditions remain deplorable.
So tonight we are opening the mics to discuss with the students, lecturers, and parents on the state of universities in Zimbabwe. What are the conditions you are facing at your respective institution? We want you to let us know so we can get the conversation going on. Tunga.
Yes, Miss T, lichana njani Zulu kandaba ikudibana kuhlelo The Connection, uhlelo lwabasakhulayo esilethulela lona maviki wonke ngolwesibili. Lamhlanje kulolu hlelo sikhangela ukutshengisela okube khona e-University of Zimbabwe okubangele ukubana lesi sikolo lelikolishi livalwe ama-authorities athumele abafundi ekhaya zisithi kumele baphenduke ngeviki ezayo mhla ka-24 ngolwesibili. Abafundi bebetshengisela phezu kokukhalala umsebenzi kwababalisi bebengasafundi abafundi ngalokho bebesithi thina esakulandayo lapha ikuzofunda njengoba singasafundi. Ababalisi bakhalala umsebenzi, bakhalale umsebenzi bekhala ngeholo abathi kabakalinikwa. Hayi kasijabuli ngalokho. Yiko ke abafundi be-University of Zimbabwe ekade bekhala ngakho ukukhalala umsebenzi kwababalisi be-UZ kulandela ukukhalala njalo umsebenzi kwababalisi kwamanye amakoliji kahulumende agoqela iNUST, iGreat Zimbabwe le-Midlands State University. Ngalokho abanengi e-University of Zimbabwe ngemva kokwaziswa lamhlanje kubana babe sebephume baphela ngo-3 o'clock emini kuma-campuses lasezindlini zaleli college. Abaningi bebekhala ngokuthi akula lapho esingaya khona ngoba kasihlali eHarare. Ongo Mr. Ndukutaura vatereri vedu kuti nyaya yatiri kukurukura nezvayo nhasi inyaya yekuvhara kweUniversity of Zimbabwe nhasi mushure mekuratidzira kwevadzidzi vachichema nekuti vane mazuva vasingadzidze nechikonzero chekuti vadzidzisi vari kuramwa mabasa vachiti havasati vatambira mari dzavo dzemwedzi waFebruary. saka vadzidzi vepauniversity of zimbabwe vaziviswa nhasi kuti vange vabuda mumacampus uye mudzimba dzechikoro ichi nhasi nenguva ya3 o'clock, asi vakawanda vanga vachichema nekuti hatina nzvimbo dzekuenda muharare imomo, because vanga vachibva vamwe vakawanda vari kubva kunzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana, saka ndo nyaya iri mudariro nhasi.
Antunga wataura hako, and tatotanga tine guest yedu. We have Mr. Agency Gumbo, who is the ZINASU, Zimbabwe National Students Union, University of Zimbabwe President. Agency, thank you for joining Tunga and I this evening on The Connection.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Let's start off with you giving us an update. What's happening on campus? As we understand by now, most students should have vacated the residence halls per request of university officials. Give us an update.
Well, students were asked to vacate campus by 3 p.m. today, which is an order that came in around lunchtime from the registrar. Of course, the directive was given directly from the Vice-Chancellor, who then ordered that all students vacate, and there was even riot police to assist in the vacation of students. And it has been said that it's only for about a week. They called it a recess, but of course it's a way that they were just trying to contain the situation that had already erupted at the university. Right now we have a situation where a lot of students, who come from all across the whole Zimbabwean divide, are still stuck in Harare, because they have got no bus fare, they have got no means of transporting themselves to to their respective homes. Since this arbitrary order was just given abruptly, and it did not give the students the time to manage to gather their finances for traveling.
Yes, and Ms. T, I think it's important that we read the notice that was issued to students today by the university registrar. It reads, the University of Zimbabwe is on recess from 17 March 2015, which is today, in 2015, to Tuesday, 24 March 2015, that's next week, in order to address issues that require immediate attention. All students are expected to vacate the halls of residence and the university campus with immediate effect, and by not later than 3 p.m. today, 17 March 2015. Lectures will resume on Wednesday, 25 March. That is next week. And, as usual, the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, whenever human rights violations occur, they sprang to action, because they are saying, they're arguing, just like the students are, that this notice was too short, and many people had nowhere to go. So the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights lawyers came to the rescue of these students, and they wrote a letter to the UZ Vice-Chancellor, Professor Levinyagura, which reads in part, most of the students have nowhere to go, and your immediate decision to eject them exposes them to risk of criminals on the streets, prostitution, among other evils, which may visit them in their separate situation. That's the letter written to Nyagura by the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights on behalf of the students at UZ.
Agency, can you take us through some of the struggles that some of the UZ students face today when it came to finding accommodation or finding somewhere to stay? We also got letters here and messages on our WhatsApp for some students saying, they wouldn't even be able to make it home because they live so far away from Harare.
Well, I think this is a clear display of, how the university administration treats their students. This is a clear display of, the heartless and inhumane nature of the Vice Chancellor and his administration, because, very well and very clearly that you harbor students that come from all over the country. You even harbor students that come from outside the country, and yet you give an order 2 hours for them to vacate their halls of residence and carry their belongings, and then disappear and vanish into thin air. I don't know where they thought these students were going to go. I don't know where they thought these students were going to even get the money for transport. Right now, you have students that are gathered in Mount Pleasant area. Some of them are even begging and, are trying to plead with the authorities of the university so that they can be allowed to sleep over for the night. Some of them right now have been exposed to even, other unwarranted conditions. We have other the girl child is now, left to the whims and caprices of the abusers out there. The boy child is all over the place trying to wander around bars, trying to find a place where they can just accommodate themselves until tomorrow, or at least until a well-wisher would give them money to go back home, or until their parents can send them money. Right now, it's a sorry situation. I was on the ground just a few minutes ago. I had an opportunity to interact with a few students that were already crying foul, saying this they've been done hard by the administration, they've been done hard by the government, and we've been trying to get contact with the Vice Chancellor. And our effort has been fruitless. Even the Dean of Students is saying he's powerless. His hands are tied. The registrar himself is not picking his phone. And what we want to do is to say, let's plead with them so that these students can find a place to sleep. Yes, they can contend the situation, but what is happening right now? The students are suffering on the streets. You have taken them from one hell into another hell. That is not going to help us.
Uyakhuluma lapha u-agency Gumbo owezinasu University of Zimbabwe uyatsho kubana abanye abafundi bastranded kathesi ezitaladeni kabala ndawo zokuyahlala overnight ngoba baphiwe isikhathi esincane kakhulu ukubana babe sebesukile ku campus University of Zimbabwe kabavunyelwa ukubana baqhubeke behlala kuleli college kulandela ukuvalwa kwalo okweviki lamhlanje. Lokhu kuze ngemva kokutshengisela kwabafundi laba bekhala ngokuthi sebele nsuku bengafundi kulandela ukukhala umsebenzi kwababalisi labo bekhala ngokuthi sebele gabakaholi iholo labo lika February ayisibo bodwa ababalisi be-UZ abakhala leyo umsebenzi tatenda kwamanye ama-university njengokutsho kwethu kubo NUST kubo Great Zimbabwe Midlands phoso onke amakolisha amakhulu kahulumende bayakhala ababalisi bathi kabaholi ngendlela efaneleyo. Tizoke kwa muri papo va Gumbo munganyatso tswana ngura ne rurimi rwa mai kuti zvinhu zvakamira sei on the ground.
Right, zviri kuitika nguva ino ndezvekuti vadzidzi vese vanzi ngavaende kudzimba. Vamwe ndo vanobva Dotito, vamwe vari kubva kumasvingo kwaGutuko, vari kubva kuBulawayo kunana Bhinga kwesoko. Havasi kuziva kuti vodii. Chaitika ndechekuti vadzidzisi ndo vatanga nyaya iyi, because vadzidzisi havana kupuwa mari dzavo, havana kupuwa masalari avo kubva February havana kupuwa machiuno wasvika vafanira kuti vapiwa hapana chiripo. Nevamwe vashandi vanenge vachishanda pachikoro vadzi havana kupuwa mari dzavo. Saka mangwanani vanhu vamuka vachiti rega tinodla chimba chiri nemazai, kwakusvika kwakawana hakuna chiriko. Vadzidzi vakati aiwa izvi takazviona kubva kare tikaramba takanyarara, ndokusaka vazobuda vakati hakunoratidzira. Vatipedza kuratidzira vakunzi nemukuru wechikoro chibva pachikoro nichienda kudzimba dzenyu. Asi ndo zvinhu zviri kutaurwa pasina kana mahawa anodarika matatu. 1 hour palunch vari kunzi na3 o'clock chibudai panapa mese sengai zvinhu zvenyu musiye makiyi angu mushayikwe pano mozodzoka kwapera vhiki. Asi vadzidzi vari kuti hatina kamari yacho yekuti tiende kudzimba dzacho. Chero patinoenda kudzimba vabereki vanombotumira mari 3 weeks in advance kuti tiende kudzimba, but izvizvi mati tiende in 1 hour hatina mari yekuti tiende ende hatina kwekuti tirare usiku huno. Papa paunza mapurisa mazhinji aripo akabata zvekurovesa vanhu
zvavagumbo vaguma nimbate pamuromo ndangachida kuti mutsanangure kuti iye zvino izvo kutaura zvinhu zvakamira sei muguta umo vamwe vevadzidzi vanga vachichema nekuti havana nzvimbo dzekuinda zvakamira sei?
Tichitaura kudai so tine vakomana vamwe vatototsvaka mabhawa ekumboti vanogara kuti kudawo bhawereka ovharawo kwakuedza mangwanani vangazowana sekuti vabate mudhorobha umu. Vamwe vasikana ndo vakungowanawo vanhu vanongovatora vachiendawo navo nenyaya yekuti havana imwe option, havana kumwe kwekuti varara. Izvi zvamwe vari kutendera kuti pakampasi ndabvapo maminitsi mashoma adarika vanhu vari kungotenderera vari kuedza kuti titaurewo nevakuru vechikoro tivataurirewo sevatungamiriri vavo, asi hapana mukuru ari kuda kutiteerera kuti anzwe kuti nyaya yacho yakamira sei. Izvizvi vanhu hapana kwavari kukwanisa kuenda. Vakwanisawo vashoma ndo vatumirwawo dzimari, vamwe ndo vanogara muguta. Vanogarawo muguta vatora dzimwewo shamwari dzavo vakati tinorarama nadzo, asi ndo mitoro yapiwa kune vamwe vabereki nevana vavo.
Chimabata zvakadaro timbowerenga hedu some of our comments ntunga dzatapiwa pa WhatsApp ne pa Facebook. Ndofunga ndotanga hangu ne pa WhatsApp. We have a first comment from Clyde who says some of us struggle to raise fees for our children. Then the government misuses that money and fails to pay lecturers. So as a parent, I think it's a time for us now to be united and refuse to pay university fees. Tinemwe mterera to my message ntunga nonzi talent who says ndiri mu student pa MSU, my lecturers ari pa go slow but azvibatsire because takabhadhara mari yekuti tidzidze. So he's saying that they're just kind of waiting to see what happens next, and hopefully we can get some students from MSU to tell us what's happening on their campus. We have another one named Peter who says the strike by students was long overdue. The conditions in the universities across the country are those of a pre-independence era where only the few elite would afford. Besides that, most senior lecturers fled the country when the economy started to nosedive. This has drastically led to very poor standards in our universities. I suggest other citizens should join the strike to force the unconcerned, selfish government out of office. That's Peter there, Ntunga.
Yebo tatenda si labanye njalo abalaleli abasilobele ku Facebook lapha uJames Sithole uthi yena students then women march equals nyikatatora. Sizoba lo Mokwena Daniels uthi yena students must get learning facilities and improved study conditions because they are paying their hard-earned cash. Kuzoba lo Whitney Tanya Zwarevashe uthi yena inga zvaoma muZimbabwe chasara kuti varwere varatidzire kunana chiremba asi simba ndora vasina. Bring back Itai Dzamara zvinhu zvinake this time, press a wrong button. Dzamara isvikiro renyika mabaya mbuya nehanda pauma. Ndi Whitney Tanya Zvarevashe. He or she is saying what remains, the things are not going well in the country, and it won't be surprising for patients to also demonstrate against doctors. And he goes on to talk about Itai Dzamara. He's likening Dzamara to Mbuyaneanda, and he's saying this time you touched the wrong button.
Yeah. And Tunga, let's introduce our second guest. That's Mr. Tafirenyika Mafumo, who is the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe University and Allied Workers Union. Mr. Mafumo, thank you for joining us this evening on LiveTalk The Connection.
Thank you.
Please give us an update on the downing of tools by non-academic and academic workers in Zimbabwe's universities.
Okay, the latest situation prevailing as of now is that we had meetings from morning with the Minister, Honorable Mchinguri, and we have resolved that the February salaries, which were a sticking point in all the matrix, should be paid today, the 17th. And we are assured that they are going to be deposited tomorrow into people's accounts.
Does this mean once that these salaries are paid that the workers will return to work?
This we have taken a chance to say, because we said employees incapacitated to come to work. Once the payment has been done, then we have no reason to stay away from campus. So all normal business will resume.
Ngibuyele kuwe Gumbo ti taurene vata firenyika muramba maka bata poronari papo ndiwe kwa muri wa Gumbo ukuramwa mabasa kwevadzidzisi kana kuti kuvharwa kwe-UZ sezvaitika nhasi kunorevei kuvana vechikoro kuvadzidzi? How does that affect kudzidza kana kuti how does that affect urongwa hwevadzidzi?
Vadzidzi vachienda kuchikoro, their major mandate is to, or their major goal and objective is to attain education. Saka vanhu vanopa dzidzo vacho ndo vadzidzisi. Saka kana vadzidzisi vakasawana mari dzavo vakaratidzira vakasauya kubasa zvazvinongoreva ndezvekudaiwo, Zimbabwe will build half-dead doctors, it will build half-dead lawyers, it will build half-dead professionals. Vadzidzi havazowani training yavaenge vachifanira kunge vachiwana. Ndokunge tichiti isusu ikodzero yedu mubumbiro remutemo wedu mune kodzero inoti yakatakapiwa inoti izvo we have a right to education, and kusabhadhara vadzidzi, kusabhadhara the educators is actually an infringement of that right. Saka zviri kuitwa apa hakusi chete kungokanganisira vadzidzi nekusavapa mari dzavo, asi kutokanganisirawo a right that we have as students. It is actually a blatant violation of the constitution. Saka izvi takamira kudai so tiri kuti orati matichikoro achichiko kusvika vhiki rapera. We have lost 1 week worth of lectures. How are we going to recover that when exams are just by the corner? We are affected greatly, by this gross and negligent treatment of our lecturers, because these are the people that we expect to educate us. Sakapatiri panapa, Mende should act, or else they will wake up to another thing.
Wamapfumo, can you react to that issue? Nekuti pane wanu nasi wati, the reaction by my students at UZ was a catalyst of the reaction of lecturers yesterday. They to demonstrate it today in regard to what lecturers did yesterday.
I think in a way, students reacted to that. Mainly when you look at it, the students who reside in campus, when they fail to get food in the morning, and also they knew that in the afternoon they were not going to get food, either in the evening, then they reacted to the situation so that they wanted to correct that situation. But anyway, before the end of business, we have decided issues that we had, the issues that we had, which the government has been resolved, and we have made it sure that normal teaching and learning and research will start tomorrow.
Yebo, Mr. uyakhuluma lapha omnumzana Tafirenyika Mapfumo. Udaba oluhluphayo kakhulu lapha tatenda ludaba lokuthi uhulumende yena ngokwakhe kalamali siyazi isikhwama zibhobokile isisebenzi zakhe eziningi ababalisi you name it batshona bekhala ngokuthi iholo lethu lapha lincane kakhulu ukusetshenziswa kwedola lemelika eZimbabwe abantu bathi hayi lokho kuyababulala kakhulu, although lanceda ukuqeda udubo olwaso lukhona ngalesa sikhathi udubo lwe-inflation, kodwa bakhala abaningi bathi idola ngokwalo kalibambeki. Uhulumende laye uthi kunzima la imali yokuhlawula izisebenzi kasiyitholi. Izisebenzi zakhe zonke phose zonke zikahulumende zifuna ukwengezelelwa iholo njengababalisi bama-universities laba, kodwa udubo njengokutsho kwami ngaphambilini uthi kalayo imali uhulumende.
Agency timbochiudza kuti atichaisa ma-other conditions ari kunetsa ku-UZ nemamwe ma-university tiudze kuti zviri kupamba sei pama-campuses kuZimbabwe.
Well, what has happened today, this is just a reflection of what happens to a pot of water when it reaches a boiling point. It will definitely boil. Vadzidzi chavanga vachema nhasi ndechekuti alright hatina kuwana proper service delivery. Asi zvinhu zvakatanga kare vanhu vakanyarara and the patience dzakabeta run out because what is happening right now pane nyaya yema-university fees because chikuchema ma-students kuti this is money that we are paying is too much. In an economy that is already struggling like ours in Zimbabwe, you cannot expect a student kuti auye akabata mari dzinosvika kuma$600 kubhadhara school fees, whereas the government is not even showing serious commitment in terms of prioritizing education in the country. The budget is announced and you realize that the allocation that is given to the Minister of Higher Education is rather, very low and lower than other sectors in the country. Yes, you might want to prioritize other things, but we think, human capital is the most important thing. Number 2, proper, accommodation. Sometimes you realize that university, when the MSU, House of President, University of Zimbabwe, it's only a minute fraction of students who can be accommodated. I think 2020 could Zimbabwe zoko. Unenya zikuita zikuti anzi ukasa in time, unofarira kubhadhara late registration fee. On top of the university school tuition fees and mandatory fees that you pay. And right now government has no scheme whatsoever. We used to talk about cadetship, but this is a passing any scheme by government to finance education in our city. While it's in the racist Smith regime, we know the likes of an professor level in Yagura, even on my ministers that now they got free education in this country. Right when I was going to loan, mwana ari kufara kuyakabata mari yakakwana government haisi kuti hanzi hatina mari hatikwanisi kuti tibhadhare makadheti izvi pane zvibereki zvikuru zviri kuitika. So these are some of the wars that students are suffering. Pane nyaya violation of the freedom of speech and academic rights. People are not afforded those on these campuses.
Agency Chimbomira, just hold on, Chimbomira, titore mtereri wedo kutanga, just so we can get a caller in before we end our first half of the program. Caroline, welcome to The Connection. How are you? Thank you, Caroline. Were you able to find accommodation to get home or even to a place to stay until next week, excuse me? Hello?
Hello, Caroline. Vamwe shamari dzako dzawana nzvimbo dzekurara here manheru anhasi?
Up to even 9 o'clock. Up to after 8, some of them want to get out of it. So I've talked to a bus stand up to basically. A good friend of mine, Cherry, I told the funeral side out in that I say a bus that stand up to basically because there was a news it is just whenever in nation and that is the trouble but a very one riot.
You know Vakupi.
Okay, thank you so much. Sakwaturi uri nandreza ndini?
I see just lecture it was a tutorial. Mame changu watoramba kudzenda kuchizara. Ndo patazobuda panze tizokane noise. Takatobvunduka panze.
Okay, thank you so much, Caroline. We have to leave it there with you. Tatenda, we should remind our listeners, our radio listeners, that tomorrow on Live Talk, we'll be talking about the expulsion of MDC renewal members of parliament today. Kusasa, zihlobo esithandekayo ku Live Talk sikhuluma ngodaba lokuxotsha kwamalunga angu-21 awe-MDC renewal edale leParliamente. That's it for our radio listeners that we have to go, but please do stay on the line. Welcome back. We are now streaming online at voazimbabwe.com, voashona.com, and voandebele.com. I'm Tungabili Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo. Our guest this evening with us is Agency Gumbo, who is the Zinasu University of Zimbabwe president, and also Atafire Nika Mafumo, who is the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe University and Allied Workers Union, joining us this evening on The Connection. Tunga, a lot in the first half about some of the issues that the students and also lecturers faced yesterday and today in regards of the action that has been going on and some of the conditions at universities throughout Zimbabwe.
Indeed, Ms. T, as we said earlier on, it's not only at the University of Zimbabwe, lecturers elsewhere at state universities are either on go-slow or on strike over unpaid February salaries.
And as Mr. Mafumo told us earlier, they came to an agreement that February payments that were delayed should be paid today. So they're hoping that tomorrow they can wake up and have their fees paid. And I think from there, it'll be a motion to return back to the classrooms and also to the workplaces where some of them work.
Indeed, kodwa ngokubona kwami njengoba UZ ilaye abafundi ukubana kumele bephenduke esikolweni ngeviki ezayo ngolwesibili mhla ka-24 lanxa kungaze kube lokuvumelana iholo lingene kusasa. Mbona ngani abafundi kuzamele baphenduke ngeviki ezayo khona lapho akusoze kube lama lessons this week.
And Tunga, but obviously as we spoke earlier, usually day to day we have our news broadcasts in Shona, English, and Ndebele. And of course, we like to give a recap of what happened today, today's top stories. So that means, of course, that at this time,
it's time for the news headlines.
All 21 lawmakers from the MDC renewal team were today expelled from Parliament following their recall by MDCT. House Speaker Jacob Mudenda said it acceded to the MDCT request in terms of Section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution, which says a member of Parliament loses his or her seat if they cease to be a member of the party under which they were elected to in Parliament. Officials from the two formations are already trading recriminations over the move. The University of Zimbabwe was today shut down for a week following protests by students over the suspension of their lectures due to a strike by lecturers and general workers who say they have not been paid their February salaries and last year's bonuses. Meanwhile, the situation is said to be very tense in all state universities where lecturers are also on strike. And finally, the South African government says it will start deporting Zimbabweans whose applications to remain in that country under the Zimbabwe Special Permits Program were rejected.
Izo-ke indaba ebezihamba phambili kusuku lamhlanje udaba lokuxotshwa kwabameli kwamalunga edale leParliamente awe-MDC renewal angu-21. Siliphe njalo lodaba South Africa ethi izaqhubeka ixotsha kumbe ideporta abangenelisanga abangaphumelelanga ekutholeni ama-permits okusebenza kumbe ukuhlala kulelo lizwe. Ms. T.
Let's go back to our guests. And Tunga, Mr. Mafumo will come to you. Can you talk about some of the conditions that lecturers that workers at universities are dealing with that led up to them donning their tools yesterday?
I think the two sticking points we raised the issue of the salary, the February salary, and also the issue of 2014 bonus, which has not been paid. Those were the two sticking points that we took to the ministry so that they could be resolved. And on the salaries, I have already indicated that by tomorrow everybody would have received these dues for February. On the bonus issue, the minister categorically said that it will be staggered. That is, they will give in batches the university the bonus that they did not give the administrative date, especially this will be staggered starting from Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Mafumo. Please do stay on the line.
Yeah, we have another guest, Alista Fuwinye. He is a student at the Midlands State University. Mr. Fuwinye, good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank me too.
Yeah, tell us, what's the situation like at Midlands State University? We hear, lecturers have been on a go-slow elsewhere at state, institutions of higher learning.
Yeah, the situation at MSU, we're actually surprised because the students were not informed that the lecturers would be going on strike. So it became a surprise to find our lecture rooms empty, and we were there as ourselves teaching ourselves.
When did they start striking?
They started yesterday.
And also, any talk of students demonstrating or protesting as we saw today at UZ?
We tried to consult the dean, but she was nowhere to be found. She was too busy to attend us as students. Wanted to hear that clarity, what's happening. And they said that they will meet us as students tomorrow, but we don't have that proof that they will meet us.
Kona ukukhalala umsebenzi kwababalisi lokhu mnumzana Pfunye kuliphambanisa ngandlela bani njengabafundi?
Thina njengabafundi lapho esivela khona sikhuliswe ngomama abathengisa amatamatisi ezitreetini. They are sacrificing for us ukuthi sihambe ezikolo. So siyafika ezikolo zangikhona sifike singafundi but sibhadalile imali zethu in full ngoba ungeke wangena eklasini ungabhadalanga imali. So kuyas-affecta thina njengama-students in a way ukuthi kwangikhona sisuke ezindlini sikhalela ukuyafunda then sifike esikolo sithole amaklasi ewodwa kulamachoko wodwa lamalokhu zenini lamabhodi angela ababalisi esikhalela ukuthi besifundise.
That's a powerful statement from Alista Pfunye there, saying essentially that, many of these students, were raised by single mothers who really had a hard time eking out a living, and getting money to send them to college. And this is what they get.
Yeah, that's what we got from one of our callers earlier who was saying that, parents are struggling day to day to even be able to pay fees for their children. And then their children are dealt with this kind of hand. And of course, in Tunga, there are plenty of universities in Zimbabwe. And as we know, tuition ranges between $400 and $500 per semester. But then there are also a lot of fees that students have to pay for. That is including computer fees. That is including, campus fees, medical fees, and things like that. How are you surviving day to day? Fees are you able to do so?
Kusurviva kwacho kwakatioma zvisingaiti nokuti mukatarisa nyange kusenga kwatogara ka marentals acho anodhura zvisingaiti 1 2 tikatarisa nyaya yemedical aid is too expensive nokuti medical aid yacho inotogona kutopedza degree sina kutomboishandisa saka it affects us as students kuti alright why should we waste $30 to kubhadhara a separate medical aid pakuti medical aid ingoiswa pafees kawani.
And nobody each semester and it.
Every semester we pay $30 in medical aid.
Do you have an option to opt out? To opt out of the medical aid?
Yes. Even my campus officials come out with the idea with the never aid as in Jesus wrong because the pass is gone.
Okay, ndofunga tine mtereri tatenda Harrison Saruchera. Good evening.
Evening, how are you?
Tiribo titaure zvakamira sei kuUZ2 ko mawana nzvimbo here dzekunorara nasi?
Nhasi taona pekunorara tiri tikaenda totaumwe tine madvantages kuti maparents edu ari muno muHarare, saka kwekurara tikangobva patangobuda pacambus tabva tauya kumba, but we also have mafriends asina kwekunorara plus vanga vasina mari dzekuti vachidzoka kumusha.
Saka zvinhu zvakamira sei kune avo vasina pekuinda?
Zvinhu zvakangoma, mwari varitongoenda vari kutanga kuita anonzi masquatting, vari kunosquata kune vanenge bosi kune vamwe vanolodza in Mount Pleasant vasiri mucambus, saka ndokwavanonosquata ikoko vachimirira kuti maybe vanogona kungosvitsa the 1 week yataurwa yacho iyoyo vachigara ikoko then vazodzoka pachikoro because they don't have the money for bus fares to go back to the rural areas because some of from Manicaland vanobva kunaona masvingo so they don't have that money yekunodzoka ikoko, saka vari kuita vari kunosquata, so it's a difficult life for them.
Saka Harrison, looking forward, what do you hope? Could you take a chat next Tuesday? Could my officials they come back, and what do you want them to say to you and the rest of the UZ students?
On behalf of the UZ students, I'm saying these guys Nanyaguraka, they have failed. They should accept Tokomana we have failed because Pakatanga semester we are forced to pay the full fees, $502 plus $400 for raise. Full fees. Full fees, how can they fail to pay our workers?
Yeah, that's yeah, go ahead, Harrison.
Kana tinenge tabhadhara mafees ese akakwana kanenguwa, which means zvinhu zvese zvinofanira zvafamba zvakanaka. Saka this we are still in March. Kana if they are failing to pay our workers, school workers in March, in December, which means hauchatobhadhari kuenda kumasuku kana watofera OSBA to starting.
That's Harrison. They saying we paid our tuition fees, and in turn we don't expect. We expect the university to be able to pay our lecturers so that we can continue learning.
Yeah. Harrison, thank you so much for joining us, Nasi Pa The Connection. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sakai Papo, maybe Agency Gumbo can come in to react to what Harrison was saying. That issue that at most universities, students were told you had to pay your fees in order to come back on campus, and if not, you couldn't finish up the semester.
Well, this is exactly what is happening in Katanga. It's happening in all state universities, was said by the just ended speaker. That right now, it seems as if, the universities are heavily relying on the fees that the students are going to pay for operations. And yet, we expect education to be, the payment of education to be simplified in a country like ours, especially a country that is highly renowned for its literacy rate. We expect that a country that actually acknowledges education as a fundamental human right, a country like that should also have tolerance in terms of how that education is funded, is financed, and it's also, how also students are managed to pay their fees. Right now, it's an order that is being given by most of the universities that, well, you know what? You can only complete your semester, you can only get into the exam room, you can only write your exams and get your results if you have managed to pay up all your fees. But in other countries, in other economies, in other jurisdictions, we know of students who go through their academic years, graduate, and start paying up even their student loans after they are graduating and working in the field. As one speaker said just earlier on, that some of these students come from, struggling families. Some of these students are raised by single mothers. Some of these students, for them to come to school, their parents back in the village have to sell their last goat and chicken so that they can manage to send their school through university. And for government and for the universities not then be considerate about these sectors, it's actually what I would want to call a growth and inhumane thinking and an inhumane ideology and philosophy.
Va mapfumo pindira ipapo vari kutaura vagumbo hanzi takabhadhara isusu mari dzemafees. Saga, we also expect universities to be able to pay lecturers. Is that not a fair point?
No, quite a fair point if that was the case. But in this scenario, it is not the case when we get the money after they paid. We have been for years getting money from the central government, which is the treasury, which gives us money. So for universities, money collected, I think they use it for operationals. It has not been used to pay salaries. So that's where the issue is now. Where Ms. Gumbo is saying those fees should be paid to the workers so that everything remains normal. Yes, in such a scenario, we would welcome it.
This Tatenda is bad in a way because one way or the other, it impacts the quality of our education.
Exactly.
I mean, when students are not going to class when they are supposed to be in class, that's a big deal and that's a problem.
And as Mr. Mafumo said earlier, this is not only the issue of lecturers. You have your cooks, you have your cleaners and everything. There were students who said today, last night they weren't able to get a decent meal. Then today they only had one hall that was open that was serving breakfast, which is where the ruckus started, because they were saying, okay, lecturers are on strike, but now they're realizing the ramifications of even the workers being on strike because they weren't able to do their day-to-day
and the
duties.
cook is the main guy. You don't go to class on an
You
empty
don't. They
stomach.
tell you you're supposed
you don't. So
and I know you would have a hard time, paying attention
of
without
course
a good.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't even go to class.
Maybe we can go back to Alistair. You can give us a reaction on that issue. What Mr. Mafumo was saying, that ideally they'd like to have a setup where the fees that you're paying each semester can be finned out to lecturers, workers, but that comes directly from the government.
Yes, zvingoitika sesu angu ka ndezvokuti isusu semastudents hanti pane a conventional program neparallel program hanti. Parallel program it involves ma-students anenge achitobhadhara mari kuma-lecturers straight. Then why do this strike affect ma-parallel students? Because the parallel students are actually paying the lecturers. So they are suffering on behalf of the government.
And
something to...
again, just a reminder to our listeners that tomorrow on this very program, LiveTalk, we are talking about the expulsion of MDC renewal members of parliament. The 21 of them, they were ejected today. The Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mudenda, ruled in favor of the MDCT, finding that these members of parliament were now no longer MDC members, MDCT members. Instead, they were now aligning themselves to another formation called the MDC renewal. So yilo utaba siyabe sikhuluma ngalo kusasa ku live talk lapha uGibbs Dube law placing Zulu. Mbonile lapha ku WhatsApp Studio 7 kubo Facebook kubo Twitter bathukuthela abantu, abanye bathu Tswangira uthengisile, abanye bathi awenze kuhle labana bebengabahlamuki. So
Chawana mangwana
Jafambwa.
I think yangari maybe number 1, number 2 between this story and Nasia UZ, and that story was trending back and forth. So I don't know who will win. The top trending story of the week.
The only reason why we had to go with the UZ story is because it impacts young people.
Exactly.
And as you know, this program is about the young generation. We are 100% biased towards the youth. Otherwise, were it not for that, the MDC renewal issue would be the one on air right now.
Let's talk to one of our callers. Sinewa Kwenda Wari Parunare. How are you? Good evening.
I'm okay, yourself?
Very well. You are father of a UZ student. Give us your reaction as you heard what happened today. And was your child able to make it home after being asked to vacate from the university?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, ndati dambudziko nderatiri kusangana naro ndera chancellor wedu. Isi kunoti munhu anenge ari kuita politics akawanda than kuita administration ye-UZ. Why we say so? It's like havana kubhadhara vanhu zvavanga vari supposed kuti vaite. Vanhu vanove ndivo vanobikira ma-students. Right, nema-lecturers achona anove ndivo vanoticha ma-students. Saka ni nyaya yaita kuti vadzinge vana. Inyaya yekuti vaona kuti vana havana munhu anoita se anobikira. Ichetoda yakakuti he's an administrator, is not a politician. I'm pretty sure kuti vaikwanisa kuhaya mamwe ma-catering companies akati chipei obikira vana chikafu rather than kungoti pacollege pasakana nenoise yaitika iripo nemobva madzinga vana. I think isusu we do have a politician. Moreover, vamwe vachati kwati they are politicians, they are criminals. That's what the problem is. We should learn to distinguish between a politician and a criminal. A lot of these people are they are politicians. They are actually criminals. Not some of the things zvavanoita zvekutoti under normal circumstances vanhu vanotenga vachifanira vari behind the bars.
Ko vakwenda sei vanyagura muchiti ndi politician?
What I'm saying is a politician. If at all he was an administrator, unofanira kunge uine ma-alternatives ekuti chakati kana chikashata ndine vana vandinavo, right? Vana vainavo vamwe vachona havagari muno muHarare, vari pana Mutare kunana Bulawayo, vanenge vari pacampus apo vachibikirwa ipapo. Handiti? Saka ngatiti zvashata kudaro, matadza kubhadhara. Ndozvanotaura kuti pane ma-catering companies ariko ekuti at least vaifanira kufidha vana ivavavo rather than kubva wangovadzinga ipapo. One of the things chatiri kuona munhu uya ari kutya kuti nezvaakuitira izvo zvinokomerwa kwaitwa vanhu neupenyu. Saka kwasa kuita noise pa-UZ. Noise iyo inokwanisa kubatira nemamwe ma-sectors e-economy. Mona. Saka he is not an administrator from the looks of it. He is more of a politician. But mamwe achati kuti ma-politicians munomu, they are not real politicians, they are actually criminals. No wonder why muri kuona kuti pano disappear vanhu, panofa vanhu. And yet toti zvikuitika mupolitics. Injo tisiri politics. It is a criminal activity. Bona. Ye munhu ari kuhwanda behind the word politics. Zviri kuitika muno. Bona. Levinyagura is actually is one of those people. Bona. That's one. Then secondly, isusu sema-parents, we are being overburdened. Tiri kubhadhara mari yakawanda. And we expect kuti kana tabhadharawo mari iyo yakawandisa kudaro, vana vedu vowana education inoenderana nemari yatiri kubhadhara. That is not happening. Not like in this case, if somebody who is trigger happy. Apari kunzi hapana kumboita noise yange yakanyanya. Mona. Yekwakutiza nemota. Mota ina yari kutiza nayo Fiat look at it. Imota yekutengwa nevabereki. Mona. Asi yari kuti imota yake. Mona. And yet they are busy ripping vabereki. Pasaka kana service yavari kuita renda kuvabereki nevana. Nema-lecturers ayo. That's sort of a thing. So it's so painful what is actually happening in here. But we should learn to distinguish with people between a politician and a criminal. A lot of these people, they are actually criminals. They are not politicians. Thank you.
Aiwa mataura vakwenda tinotenda zvikuru.
Ndatenda.
Varikutaura vakwenda pa hanzi most of these people hanzi ma-criminals vamwe vacho ma-politicians like vanyagura vambotaura nenyaya yekuti vatiza vamhanya vari nemotokari vachitiza ma-students. Handiti ndambonzwa vachitaura kushona show yedu hanzi vanga vachida kuita kanyama. And interestingly, I'm following my my Twitter feed, and one guy is saying ZBC says political parties are bent on regime change, the ones steering emotions at the University of Zimbabwe. Sazi ukuthi kungaba kulo kuqiniseka okunganani khonapho bembala iTwitter lapha omunye engimbonayo ku Twitter ukhuluma ukuthi umsakazo we-ZBC ukhuluma ngokuthi amabandla aphikisayo engaba eyiwo khuthaze abafundi e-University of Zimbabwe lamhlanje tatendo kubana batshengisele phezu kodaba lwama-lecturers.
Agency Chimbopinda Ipapo, there are questions here that today's demonstrations were just merely politics and politically driven.
Giving those postulations are just people who are trying to escape liability. There was no political party on campus today to motivate what happened. It's not any political party which is bent on the regime change which caused food to be unavailable in the dining halls, but rather it is simply that our cooks were not available to do the job because they were not paid to come to work and do the job. So any person who is speaking about political parties, this is a person who is dreaming and should really wake up from that dream, because nothing like that happened. We had students from across all political divides. We had students who could not even be identified by any political party. We just had students who were disgruntled about what had happened on campus, and they were demonstrating, expressing themselves, not expressing the views of any political leader, not expressing the views of any political party. So definitely we know the people that are spreading these lies, and we know why they are spreading them, because they know they are liable. There's something that they're supposed to be doing and they're not doing, and they're trying to, just create a smoke screen and pretend as if everything is okay.
Vamapfumo tivarire chirongwa. What's the way forward, and what should be done to make sure that there is no repetition of these job actions?
I think way forward from now on is to make sure that the salaries are paid on time. Reasons of workers are resolved with the agents that they deserve. And also when we are talking of bread and butter issues, remember the cook that is supposed to be in that kitchen is also a family to feed. The cleaner who is cleaning the toilets is also a family to feed. So when we are talking labor issues, they remain labor issues where bread and butter issues should be resolved urgently. We would like the situation that is resolved today not to repeat itself again, because it can have a devastating effect in the future. So I hope for the agreement that we've done, or the commitment that we have done with our minister, and also the commitment done by the acting president to resolve this issue will not occur again. So we say that on 3 days they should be honored. They should be honored in total.
Thank you. Alistair, 30 seconds are your last word. What's your message to university students across Zimbabwe on what occurred today and what might happen in the future?
My statement is very clear and short and precise. I say to the students, let's unite as students and become one and fight for our rights as students and fight for our survival. Learning is an academic right, so we should defend our rights as students. We should not sit down behind desks, not advocating for our rights as students.
Thank you.
Agency Gumbo ke lapho omela izinasu e-University of Zimbabwe obekhuluma latenda ukuthi njengabafundi kumele bebambane belwele amalungelo abo. Yilo ke udaba lwalamhlanje ebesilalo kodwa isikhathi tatenda besingapha umaphumo kodwa isikhathi kasiselaso u-Agency Gumbo lo tafirenyika maphumo kwaneloko lamhlanje olivalelisayo uNtungamili Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo. Have a very good evening and make sure you join us next Tuesday on The Connection. Good night.